In the heart of the ancient city of Veyndral, rising above crooked rooftops and narrow, damp alleys, stood the belfry of St. Havel's ruin. Its stone walls were blackened with centuries of soot, and at its peak hung a bell that no man dared to ring. They called it the morning bell. Old tales whispered that it was not made of bronze like others, but forged from bone, blood, and ash during a night of plague and fire. The elders said, "When the black bell tolls, misfortune walks the streets." Kings had fallen, crops had withered, whole families had vanished after its sound drifted over the city. So, by decree of a long-dead bishop, it was sealed and left to rot. Yet no one tore the tower down. Fear itself seemed to guard it. I was but a blacksmith's apprentice then, no more than 16 winters. My days were filled with hammering steel and stoking the forge, yet my nights soon belonged to the bell. The first dream came when the wind howled through the shutter cracks. I saw the belfry in moonlight, its shadow stretching like a black finger across the sleeping city. The bell swung by itself, and though no sound reached my ears, I felt its toll in my chest, like a hand pressing against my heart. Then a voice came, not spoken, but breathed inside my skull. "Wake, child of fire. My time comes soon." I woke in sweat, the taste of iron on my tongue, the echo of that silent toll still thudding inside me. Outside my window, the city was silent, too silent. Even the stray dogs had gone quiet. And then, far, far in the night, I heard it. The black bell tolled once, and somewhere in the city, a scream split the darkness. At dawn, the city was restless. Whispers crawled through the crooked streets like rats. In the marketplace, where vendors usually cried out their prices of bread and salted fish, there was silence. Men stood in clusters, muttering prayers. Women pressed hands to their mouths, and children clung to skirts. Someone had vanished in the night. Her name was Elna, the baker's daughter. Her window was found open, the shutters clawed as though by iron nails, but no tracks led away. Not on the street, not on the roof tiles, nowhere. Her mother swore she heard the sound of chains dragging before the girl disappeared. The priests said it was the plague returning. The city guard said it was the work of thieves. But the old ones, they looked at the belfry. Always the belfry. I tried to tell myself it was only a nightmare, that I had not heard the bell. But in the forge, while my master hammered iron, I found myself staring into the flames too long, hearing faint tones that weren't there, like a bell's toll hidden in the crackle. That night, when sleep finally took me, the dream returned. The streets of Veyndral were empty. Smoke coiled above the rooftops, though no fires burned. I walked alone, guided by a shadow that stretched toward the belfry. The bell swayed slowly, though no wind touched it. Its surface gleamed as if wet, though it was dark as pitch. And then I saw them, figures chained in iron, faceless, dragged across the square toward the tower door. Their whispers echoed like wine through dry bones. "Join us, join us, join us." The bell's voice filled me once more, deeper now, colder. "Bring me fire, apprentice. Forge the key." I woke gasping, my hand blistered, though I had not touched the forge all night. And on my palm was a smear of soot that would not wash away. The next evening, another person was gone. This time, a city guard who had stood watch near the belfry. His spear was found snapped in half. His helmet lay in the mud, dented inward, as if by a great hand. And when the sun fell, the bell tolled again. Only once. But I heard it not with my ears. I heard it inside my skull. By the third morning, fear clung to the city like fog. Doors were barred even in daylight. Merchants packed their stalls before noon. Even the rats seemed to scurry faster, as though they too feared the sound that prowled at midnight. Then the inquisitors came. 3 riders entered through the east gate, cloaked in black wool. their horses gaunt and restless. At their head rode Father Corvin, the High Inquisitor, known for burning witches and heretics alike. His face was pale and thin as parchment, his eyes dark pits that seemed to read the sins from a man's soul. The crowd parted as if death himself rode past. They made straight for the belfry. For the first time in years, the heavy doors creaked open, the echo rolling through the square. People gasped, some crossing themselves, others fleeing indoors. No one dared follow, not even the guards. That night, I thought I'd sleep no more. Yet when my eyes closed, the dream claimed me again. I was at the foot of the belfry, watching the Inquisitors climb its spiral stairs with torches. Their light flickered against the stone, illuminating carvings I had never seen before. Runes etched deep, in shapes like weeping faces and clawed hands. The bell swayed, waiting. When the Inquisitors reached the top, they raised their torches to inspect it. I wanted to call out, to warn them, but my voice would not leave my throat. The bell rang, only in the dream, but it shook the very stones beneath me. The Inquisitors screamed, dropping their torches, clutching their ears. One by one, their bodies twisted unnaturally, folding inward like parchment tossed into fire, until only black husks remained. And then the voice spoke again, sharper now, commanding, "Forge me the key, child of fire, or I shall forge you." I woke with a start, heart pounding, the smell of smoke still in my nostrils. In the morning, the city was buzzing. The Inquisitors had not returned from the tower. Their horses stood tied, riderless. Father Corvin's black cloak was found torn at the belfry's threshold. No one dared enter after them. But I knew the bell was waiting for me, and when I looked down at my blistered hand, I saw something new. The faint impression of runes carved into my skin. Runes that matched the ones I had seen in the dream. The forge was my refuge, yet even there the whispers followed. When my master sent me to fetch more coal from the storage room, I found something buried in the ash pile. A charred book, bound in cracked leather, its cover scorched black. No mark of any scribe or church adorned it, only a single sigil pressed deep. A circle with a bell inside, surrounded by shackled figures. When I touched it, the air grew cold. The pages inside were brittle, some burned to nothing, but fragments remained. The script was strange, half Latin, half something older, a tongue that clawed at the mind when spoken. Yet I could read enough. It told of the bell, not a holy relic, but a curse, forged by the hands of a blacksmith long ago who had bound human bones with molten iron and quenched the bell in blood. A bell that demanded sacrifice, tolling not by rope, but by hunger. And worse, the book spoke of a key, a blade to be forged by fire, blood, and will. The one who forged it could either destroy the bell or serve it. That night I dreamed again. The city lay in ruins, its streets crawling with shadows. The bell hung above me, larger than ever, dripping black ichor. Beneath it stood a knight clad in black armor, faceless, holding a sword of iron so dark it swallowed light. He raised the blade toward me, and in a voice like grinding stone he whispered, "The key is mine, unless you take it." I woke to find the book on my chest, though I had left it in the forge. My master swore he hadn't touched it. Outside, the bells of the cathedral rang for vespers, but one sound did not belong. A low, single toll from the belfry, and with it another scream split the night. This time 2 children were gone. Rumors spread faster than plague. They said the Princess of Veyndral, locked in the northern tower for reasons no one dared explain, had begun speaking of nightmares, visions of the black bell, of faceless nights, and of people vanishing in the streets below. She claimed she could hear the bell even in her high chamber, as though it called to her very soul. Curiosity and dread gnawed at me. That night, I slipped from the forge and made my way to the northern tower, shadows swallowing my steps. The city slept or pretended to, but the air was thick with fear, the cobblestones slick with the evening mist. The tower door was iron-bound, yet it yielded to a whisper of the bell in my mind. Inside, the princess sat by the window, her face pale and framed by black hair. She looked as though she had not slept for weeks, her hands clutching a silver locket. "You hear it too," she whispered, her voice trembling. I think it speaks to me," I admitted. "The bell," she said. "It chooses. Those it touches in dreams vanish by midnight. It has chosen you." The walls of the tower seemed to shiver as the wind moaned outside. Then, suddenly, the bell tolled in the distance. Only once, yet the sound shook the stones beneath us. The princess gasped, her eyes wide with terror. "They're coming," she said, and at that moment, through the tower's thick glass, I saw them, shadows moving in the square below, dragging something long and ragged. The faceless night. The black armor glinted in the moonlight. I felt the bell's command inside me, sharp as a blade. "Bring me fire. Forge the key." Before I could speak, the princess pressed a trembling hand to my chest. "They'll take us both if we stay. You must decide now." The bell tolled again, closer this time, as if swinging just above our heads. And then the tower door shook violently, as though 1,000 hands battered it from the outside. We ran, the princess and I, down the spiral staircase, the tower groaning like a dying beast above us. The city outside was transformed. Shadows twisted unnaturally, reaching from walls and rooftops like black water. Every alley seemed alive, every corner hiding something unseen. From the belfry came the toll, deep, resonant, a sound that made the air shiver. With each strike, the shadows grew bolder, stretching toward us as if the bell itself had arms. "Through the marketplace," I urged. "We can hide among the stalls." The princess nodded, clutching my arm. Together we dodged carts, barrels, and the scattered remnants of merchant wares. A horse, riderless, galloped past, its hooves clattering like thunder. Its rider, another vanished soul, hung limp, head swaying unnaturally. We reached the forge district, where smoke curled from chimneys like ghosts. I ducked into my old master's workshop, heart hammering. The bell's voice, no longer just in dreams, filled my head. "Forge the key, child of fire, or I claim your soul." I knew then what I must do. The blacksmith's tools had been my world, but now they could become my weapon or my prison. I would have to create the key, and if I failed, the bell would take not only me, but the princess, the city, everyone. But first, we had to survive the night. From outside came a metallic scrape, the sound of armored footsteps. I peeked through the cracks. The faceless knight stood in the alley, sword in hand, shadow merging with the darkness. He was not alone. Behind him, the vanished townspeople shuffled like broken marionettes, their faces blank and wet with despair. He raised his sword, and the bell tolled again. This time, the sound seemed to pierce my very bones. We barely escaped. Ducking through a narrow side street, I led the princess to my master's forge, the place where I had spent countless hours hammering steel and shaping iron. Now it had to serve a new purpose, to forge the key. The forge's hearth roared to life under my hands, sparks dancing like fireflies in the gloom. The princess helped, carrying tongs and bellows as I laid out plans I barely understood. The book I had found in the ashes rested nearby, its charred pages trembling as if alive. The bell's voice was louder now, no longer distant or hidden in dreams. It seeped into the room, vibrating through the stone walls, demanding, "Forge the key or I take all." I began melting iron in the crucible, sweat running down my face. Each strike of the hammer against the glowing metal seemed to echo the toll of the bell. My arm ached, my vision blurred, but I could not stop. Suddenly, a shadow crossed the doorway, the faceless knight. He did not speak, did not move, yet the air itself seemed to twist around him. Behind him, the vanished townspeople waited, unmoving, watching, breathing like the wind through dry leaves. I raised the hammer. The princess screamed, "Don't let it touch you!" And as I struck the iron, the knight's sword lunged toward me. The sword passed through nothing, or perhaps through shadow itself, yet the force of it knocked me off balance. Sparks flew from the anvil, and the bell's voice roared in my mind, sharper, hungrier. Forge, or become part of me. I clutched the iron, sweat blinding my eyes, and struck again and again. Each blow rang with a toll, each strike feeding the bell. The crucible hissed and smoked, the flames curling like black serpents around my arms. The princess grabbed my shoulder. "It's feeding on your fear. It wants you." I realized then that the bell's power was not only over the city. It had chosen me. Every scream, every disappearance, every vanished soul had been a summons, a way to draw me closer to its will. And now I was the one standing at the center of its hunger. Through the smoke, I saw movement in the forge's shadow. The faceless knight stepped closer, and the vanished townspeople followed. Their blank faces pressed against the walls, the floor, the roof, as though the entire building were alive with their watching. A thought struck me. The key was not only metal. It had to carry my intent, my choice, to destroy the bell or to obey it. I hammered faster, the sound of metal screaming against metal, while outside, the city shivered with the toll of the black bell. One of the vanished, perhaps a child, reached out with a hand of smoke and bone, brushing against my leg. A chill ran through me, icy and paralyzing. And then, I heard another voice, faint but urgent. "Do not falter. It will claim everything if you do." Suddenly, the forge doors burst open. The shadows spilled inside like black water, and the faceless knight raised his sword again. I had seconds to choose, forge the key, or be claimed by the bell forever. The shadows swirled, thick as smoke, crawling along the walls of the forge. The faceless knight advanced, his black armor dripping darkness as if the night itself had taken shape. Behind him, the vanished townspeople pressed closer, moaning without sound, their empty eyes fixed on me. The bell tolled once, and the sound was no longer distant. It was inside my chest, rattling my bones. My hands shook as I gripped the hammer, the molten iron threatening to spill. The princess clutched my arm, her eyes wide with terror. "You must choose," she cried. "Now!" I realized the truth. The key was not just forged from iron, but from will. Every strike of the hammer was a question. Obey the bell or fight it. If I hesitated, the bell would consume me, and Veyndral with me. I struck the iron one last time, and flames roared higher than the roof, casting shadows like clawing hands. The metal glowed black, then silver, then white-hot. Sparks filled the room, and the bell's voice screamed in my mind. "Choose!" I lifted the key from the anvil. It was not just a blade. It pulsed with heat and blood, humming with a terrible power. The knight lunged, but I pointed the key at the bell itself, the sound of its tolling echoing like a heartbeat. The moment stretched. Then I made my choice. The key either cut the bell or bound me to it. Outside, the city held its breath. I climbed the spiral staircase of the belfry, the princess clinging to my arm. The shadows followed, but the key in my hand glowed brighter than the darkness around us. The toll of the black bell rattled my teeth, shaking the stones beneath my feet. Each step was like climbing into the mouth of a beast. At the top, the bell hung above the city, larger than I had imagined, black and slick as though it had been forged from nightmares themselves. Its surface shimmered with veins of red, like dried blood, and I felt it pulsing, alive, aware. The faceless night blocked my path, sword raised, the vanished townspeople forming a wall behind him. The bell's voice slithered into my mind. "Do you defy me, child of fire?" I raised the key. Its heat burned through the air, and I shouted with a strength I didn't know I possessed. "I choose." I plunged the key into the bell. The sound was not a toll but a scream, 1,000 voices wailing in agony. Shadows twisted and writhed, clawing at the walls, the night, the townspeople. The bell vibrated violently, shaking the belfry like it might crumble. The faceless night staggered, then dissolved into smoke. The vanished people moaned one last time, then vanished completely. The bell's toll faded, replaced by silence so deep it pressed against my ears. The city below was still. Windows stared blankly, streets empty. The princess clutched my hand, trembling. "Is it over?" I dared not answer. And then, from the darkness beneath the bell, a new sound emerged. Not the toll, but a whisper. "You have freed me, but at what cost?" The city of Veyndral lay under a heavy, unnatural silence. No church bells rang, no merchants cried their wares, and even the wind seemed afraid to stir. The black belfry loomed above the empty streets, its bell now cracked and smoking from the blow of the key. The princess and I descended cautiously, my hand still gripping hers. The vanished townspeople were nowhere to be seen. Had the bell truly released them, or had it claimed them forever? The thought clawed at my mind. In the marketplace, shadows lingered, writhing like smoke caught in the moonlight. Yet no one walked them. Windows were shuttered, doors locked tight. Only the smell of charred stone and iron remained, a reminder of the bell's hunger. Then came a soft sound, a scratching, scraping, almost imperceptible. I turned toward the square. The Black Knight's armor lay in pieces at the belfry's base. Yet from the shards emerged a faint glimmer, a pulse of shadow that crept toward me. The bell's whisper lingered in my mind. The key was only the beginning. I clutched the princess tightly. Her eyes, wide and terrified, met mine. "What do we do now?" she asked. Before I could answer, a scream tore through the city, a human scream, full of terror and despair. It came from the eastern gate, the side where the first vanished guard had been seen. And then I saw movement in the distance. A figure, cloaked in black, mounted on a pale horse, gliding silently over the cobblestones. Its face was hidden beneath a helm, but I felt its gaze on me, watching, waiting. The bell was silent now, yet I knew better. Its hunger had only shifted, its will still reaching through the shadows. We were not free. The next day I could not rest. The city was quiet, too quiet, as if holding its breath after some terrible storm. I returned to the belfry, the princess following reluctantly, her eyes darting to every shadow. Something about the cracked bell called to me, a low hum beneath the silence. At the base of the tower, I discovered a hidden trapdoor I had never noticed before. The blackened stones around it were carved with the same runes as the book in the ashes, glowing faintly. The bell's whisper had returned, soft and insistent. The key opened the way. "Now go deeper." Torch in hand, I led the princess down a narrow staircase that spiraled into darkness. The air grew colder, damp with the smell of iron and decay. At the bottom, we found a hidden chamber, its walls lined with skulls embedded in stone, the floor slick with dried blood. In the center stood a pedestal, and atop it a small, black tome bound with human sinew. The book pulsed faintly, as if alive. I approached, hands trembling, and opened it. Inside were writings I could barely comprehend. the history of the bell, the Black Knight, and the vanished souls. It spoke of a ritual, a way to finally sever the bell's curse, but at a terrible cost. Whoever completed the ritual would bind themselves to the bell's fate. Not just the city's, but their own. A chill ran through me. The faceless knight's shadow flickered at the edges of the chamber, though no one else was there. And then I heard the faintest echo of a bell toll from deep underground. The princess gasped. "It's not finished. It's waiting for you." I realized the truth. The bell's curse had not been broken. It had only shifted, and the final choice lay ahead. The chamber seemed alive, pulsing with the bell's power. The book's instructions were clear, yet horrifying. The key I had forged was only part of the ritual. I would need to offer a piece of myself, blood, fire, and will, to bind the bell's curse forever, or to destroy it completely. The princess took my hand. "You don't have to do this alone," she whispered, but I could feel the weight of the city pressing on my shoulders. Every vanished soul, every scream, every shadow, it had all been a summons to me. I set the key on the pedestal. Following the book's directions, I traced the runes on the floor with molten iron, letting the heat singe my palms. The bell's whisper grew louder, echoing in the chamber as if it were inside my skull. "I am hunger. I am eternity. Give yourself to me or all will fall." I pierced my palm and let the blood drip onto the runes. Flames leapt from the molten iron, dancing up the walls, swallowing the skulls in light and shadow. The faceless knight appeared at the chamber's edge, raising his sword, yet he did not attack. He was a guardian, a sentinel of the bell's will, waiting to see my choice. As I chanted the words from the book, the bell above groaned and trembled, its blackened surface rippling. The shadows of the vanished souls rose, swirling around me, moaning, pulling at the edges of my mind. The princess screamed, "Stop it!" But I could not. I had reached the point of no return. And then the bell's voice changed, soft, almost sorrowful. "One choice remains. One life, one city." I realized the knife edge of my decision. To destroy the bell, I must bind myself to its curse, or obey it and doom Veyndral forever. The chamber shook as if the city itself were gasping. Shadows whipped against the walls, moaning voices clawed at my mind, and the bell pulsed above like a heart of darkness. I held the key in one hand, my blood dripping onto the runes, the other hand gripping the princess's tightly. The choice had come. Destroy the bell and bind myself to its curse, or obey it, letting its hunger spread through Veyndral once more. I looked into the princess's eyes, seeing fear, hope, and trust reflected there. My own reflection in the molten iron told me I was no longer a boy. I whispered the words from the book, voice trembling, and plunged the key into the molten circle of runes. Flames erupted, not just in the chamber, but in the tower itself. The bell shuddered, and the faceless knight cried out, not in anger, but in sorrow. The shadows surged, twisting, screaming. The bell's toll came, deafening and eternal. Yet this time it was different. Not a sound of death, but of release. I felt a cold hand clutch my heart, and then warmth, and the shadows began to dissolve, their moans fading into silence. The vanished townspeople's forms shimmered faintly before dissolving into the air, free at last or lost forever. The key fused with the bell, the black iron and my blood sealing together. I fell to my knees, gasping, the bell's power now mine to hold, to contain, to endure. Veyndral would live, but I would carry its curse within me. My body burned, my mind throbbed, and yet, the city outside began to stir. The princess knelt beside me, trembling. You saved them?" I could only nod, though I felt no victory, only the weight of eternity pressing down. Above, the belfry was silent. The black bell would toll no more, but it was not gone. His voice was inside me now, patient, eternal, waiting. And the city, ignorant of the horror that had passed, began to wake, unaware of the price I had paid. The city of Veyndral awoke to a calm morning, sunlight spilling over cobblestones slick with dew. Merchants called their wares, children laughed in the streets, and the distant tower of St. Havel's belfry stood black and silent against the sky. Life had returned, yet I knew it was only an illusion. The princess helped me to my feet. My hands were blistered, my body weak, but the weight in my chest was heavier than any forge could ever have taught me to bear. I felt the bell inside me, a cold, patient presence, waiting, whispering, a constant toll no one else could hear. I had saved the city, but at the cost of my own freedom. For days I tried to live among the people. I laughed when they laughed, hammered iron in the forge, and walked the streets beside the princess. Yet at night, in dreams and waking whispers, I felt the bell stirring, demanding, calling. Every vanished soul I had freed was safe, yet the curse still lived in me. And then came a rumor. Travelers spoke of a black knight appearing on distant roads, silent, faceless, and unyielding. Some swore he carried a bell-shaped mark on his chest. Others whispered of disappearances, though the city itself remained untouched. I realized the truth. The bell's hunger had been contained, not destroyed. It would wait within me, growing, patient, eternal. I was its keeper now. My will, my fire, and my blood had forged a prison, but the prison was also a part of me. One evening, as the sun set behind the towers, the princess leaned close and asked softly, "Will it ever end?" I looked at the black silhouette of the belfry against the crimson sky. My voice was steady, though my heart still trembled. "Not while I live, but as long as I live, it will toll for no one else." And in the deep silence that followed, I felt it stir, a whisper at the edge of my mind. "Forever, apprentice, forever." The city slept, unaware that its salvation came at a price no one would ever see, and that somewhere, deep inside me, the black bell waited, patient, eternal, and hungry. The shadows lingered in the corners of my vision, the toll echoing silently within, and I knew my life, my fate, and the fate of Veyndral were bound together in a darkness no one could touch, until the day I faltered. The end.